Hello, everybody. Scott Golden here with the World Class Championship Wrestling Review Series. We move in to the month of July, and it's July 5th, 1986 is this week's episode, or this particular episode. New talents abound, some interesting stuff here, and an unfortunate medical update on Kerry Von Erich, which we'll get to later in the program. This probably, to me, would be the beginning of the end of world class in a lot of ways. Kerry Von Erich, actually, I'll just touch on the medical update piece now, out of sequence. Kerry Von Erich in a motorcycle accident, causing him to lose his foot. What's interesting is the doctor lies and says that the foot has not been lost. Either they have to amputate it later, or there's a lie from the beginning. Who knows? I don't know that story, but what I do know is this is the accident that causes Kerry to lose his foot, and many people say Kerry was never the same after that. Also, Von Erich out of action here in 1986. Not a good thing by any stretch. The Von Erich family certainly snake bitten. Anyway, Jerry Allen and Brad Batten, I guess they've abandoned the U.S. Express name or something. Anyway, a very basic match. Allen, a good enhancement talent, manages to go for some hip toss early and do everything he can. Batten comes back with a couple of body slams and uses a little bit of power. Really a very basic opening match contest type thing. Filling TV time, nothing wrong with it if you are an enhancement talent or an independent guy who wants to just learn psychology of where to put basic moves. Good match to go out of your way to watch. Allen tries to use more of a technical wrestling style, doesn't get where he wants with it. Barton uses a little bit more power, although they're very easily matched. Some near falls, just using wrestling technical ability. Batten comes up with the arm bar, and then we see Allen with a backbreaker to break things open. Tombstone piledriver by Allen, which kind of catches things off guard. And he's in the... Allen has his opponent in the ropes, and too close to the ropes after that tombstone. So that doesn't go very well for him. Not sure how they plan that. I'd consider that a bit of a botch. He ends up hitting a clothesline. And gets a 2 count off the clothesline. Not quite sure why you'd waste something like a tombstone piledriver. Anyway, neck breaker by Allen, and I think he goes for a second tombstone here. No, does not go for a second tombstone. Does hit the neck breaker though. Allen comes up and tries to get another pinfall. Goes back to the very, very basics, and strikes in that. Anyway, Batten tries to keep things going in his direction. Big back body drop out of the corner, and has an advantage for a little bit, not too terribly long. Shoulder tackle. They actually get over 10 minutes out of the match, which to me is surprising. Drop kick under the chin by Batten, and he is back in control, certainly, for the next little while. High cross body off the second rope on the inside, and the win for Batten off of that particular maneuver. We move into the second match of the evening, which is Killer Tim Brooks versus Skip Young, the returning Skip Young, former tag team champion, with Iceman Parsons from a couple of years ago. Killer Tim Brooks, using his brawling style as is to be expected, laying out Young, and actually pretty dominant over him for the first couple of minutes of the match. Leg drop, low blows, and the like. I mean, it's obviously a differential in size. Plus, you're going to see some other interesting stuff, with, I don't even know, let's see. Not a debut, but just interesting matches that you don't normally see this week. Again, Fritz and company do try to mix things up at least 2 or 3 times a year. I'm sure every other territories are the same, but it seems like, at least on television, there's new guys in for TV at least 2 or 3 times a year, and then guys will return. So obviously, it's a big enough payoff man that people would want to return. Skip Young, a guy who's been gone for probably more than a year at least, yet he does return through to Texas here. Don't know how long he's here. My watching has only gone up to the beginning of August, so I'm a couple of weeks ahead of where we are right now. But I don't know how long Skip is here. What I do know is he gets dominated in this match by Killer Brooks. Brooks is a guy who has been here throughout the iteration of World Class, as well as was a major force in the big time wrestling pre-World Class iteration. So, an older guy. Brooks is to be noted. He just passed away earlier this year, but he was the trainer of current WWE performer Keith Lee. So we have something extra to thank Killer Brooks for, even if you haven't seen him in the ring. Match goes pretty simply here. Lots of brawling and stalling and chokes by Brooks, and a big headbutt as a turnaround by Skip Young. Young not willing to do very much as far as wasting energy. So his comeback is pretty complete. He does the up and over and hits a shot and catches a huge missile drop kick into a nip up by Young. 1, 2, and 3. Impressive victory, just the way it comes about. Not so much that he won, but the quick turnaround is there. Great fire on a babyface comeback and cool things. So then we've got a tag team match: Rick Rude and the Great Kabuki, alongside manager Percy Pringle versus Chris Adams and Steve Simpson. Really trying to get Simpson over to another level to put him in there with these folks. It's there. It's vibrant. It's real. And it's, I guess, they think necessary, as Simpson is becoming more and more of a, I don't know that I'd say star in the area, but certainly a guy that they're trying to build a relationship that they can begin to rely on, at the very least. Matches is, like I said, simple. Rude and Kabuki have teamed before. Simpson and Adams, I do not believe have. They might have once before, but anyway, very new in their team. Kabuki actually with a monkey flip while still in an armbar, which is kind of interesting. So Kabuki still bringing very, very cool stuff, including a roll through body scissors, almost like a Kevin Von Erich would do. A croquet mallet / cane held by good old Percy Pringle on the outside. Pringle not particularly happy with things, the way they're breaking down for his men, and he is very nervous. Steve Simpson comes back in quite strongly, and unfortunately for him, he's on the butt end, receiving end of a hard kick to the jaw from Kabuki. Kabuki and Rude tag off. Rude hits a hot shot on the top rope against Steve Simpson before that comeback, and a bit of a botch of the super kick by Chris Adams, as Kabuki just ducks out of the way, doesn't want to take the move, or whatever the case may be. That match breaks down again into a bit of a brawl. We then see Rude and Adams back in. Of course, Adams does hold a victory over Rick Rude from previous weeks, so that's notable. Rude has been the standout guy for the last several months in the promotion, one would assume, and just him dropping a fall or getting beaten at all is a big deal here in 1986. And Kabuki does eat a super kick by Adams right there. Tag back off to Steve Simpson. Simpson sends Kabuki up into the lights with a backdrop. Simpson gets frustrated at his inability to eliminate Kabuki right after that, and Simpson gets the victory for his team over Kabuki due to a miscue from the outside at the hands of Percy Pringle. Anyway, we've got about a 8 or 9 minute match. Matt Bourne against Kevin Von Erich. What an interesting pairing that is. I actually would not have imagined that they would do battle, but they do. And, Kevin hasn't been around very much, but with Kerry on the shelf, they need that Von Erich blood in there. Kevin gets a couple of big shots on Matt Bourne, and they go into the corner with some knees, among other things. Irish whip. Kevin sends Bourne to the other corner. Bourne tries to slow the match down with chokes both over the ropes and otherwise. A much slower pace when Matt Bourne is in control, as is to be expected. Kevin on the receiving end of a knee lift, among other things, and we kind of do see, a good bit of Bourne taking over for several minutes here. Chokes him out over the top rope, among other things. Matt Bourne does find himself, though, on the receiving end of a claw, but a disqualification victory for Kevin Von Erich as Mad Dog Buzz Sawyer rushes in. Sawyer and Bourne have a history across Mid-South and other territories, so their friendship is brought here to the Mid-South area, to the world-class area, and Kevin is beat up, not permanently, but he's pretty well beat up there, including a top rope splash by Buzz Sawyer. So that's the beginning of July here in World Class. In 1986. We'll be back with more right after this.